Hello, and welcome to everyone's favorite TV format. A white guy sitting behind a desk telling you things. And boy do I got some things to tell you, so let's jump right in. The mainstream media, the likes of Fox, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, the NYT, the WP, BBC, the AP, RESPECT. What do these media organizations mean to we? Well, today I'll be talking about just that. What do these big news organizations stand for, and what kind of methods do they use and try to persuade or even coerce their viewers into thinking certain ways? We can start off by talking about money, because it can really be traced back as the driving factor behind many of the tactics we see used by the mainstream media today. 37 years ago, there were 50 companies that controlled the vast majority of media in America. How many do you think there are today? Behold the big six. The big popular news organizations have consolidated so much that now we have but 6 companies in charge of 90% of all media, meaning that 90% of our media is controlled by 6 multi-billion-dollar corporations. Now, I don't know about you guys, but as someone whose bank account literally just doubled from the stimmy checks we got this year, I feel like the priorities of companies with billions of dollars could potentially be slightly different from mine. And even if a media company is actually acting in good faith, it seems increasingly impossible to separate their interests from their billion-dollar corporate overlords. But whatever, there's a disparity in who's choosing what news to report and who's watching it. Big deal. Well, it is a big deal, and here's why. The interests of these big corporations and the interests of regular folks like you and I don't really match up at all. And so then we're left with coverage of things that are of no real importance to the vast majority of people, and are instead just being reported to sensationalize or get clicks, views, and higher ratings. Like the idiotic coverage we saw of Dr. Seuss, where many conservatives and news organizations became fixated on the story and used it as an example of the dangers of cancel culture. But although it might be easy to just blame Fox News, more liberal media outlets like MSNBC and CNN are perpetrators as well. In what Jon Stewart once coined a news loop, media organizations will cover other news organizations' coverage in what becomes a perpetual cycle of constant, pointless argument about something that they hadn't made a big deal about in the first place. No one would care about. The worst part, coverage of Dr. Seuss went on for over 3 weeks. Hundreds of hours wasted on this pointless story that could have been spent reporting things that actually affect people's lives. Personally, I try to avoid coverage of the whole thing after watching a few videos on it when it first got reported. After this, I did not watch it in my house. I clicked no articles with my mouse. I did not watch coverage here nor there. I watched no coverage anywhere. Because of all this commotion, it's really no use. So for the love of God, stop covering Dr. Seuss. Unfortunately, it's this kind of adversarial rhetoric that keeps the media cycle flowing. See, when Donald Trump was in office, media ratings were at all-time highs due to him saying some wacky thing every day or tweeting something controversial every few hours. But the sensationalism and kookiness that came with the Trump administration disappeared when boring old Biden came into office, which resulted in the primetime ratings of outlets like CNN and MSNBC to drop to 45% and 26%, respectively, after Biden took office. Corporate influence, sensationalism. There's one last thing I want to touch on, and it's the obvious one. How the media is dividing us politically. See, the modern news media has really been defined by the demonization of the other side, whether that be the liberals or conservatives. See, it's easy to hate a group of people when you think you have nothing in common with each other. And guess what? This division is no secret to anyone. A Gallup survey found that 84% of respondents thought that the media was the cause of our divided partisan country. Now, this explains why conservative news groups want to make it seem like every Democrat is a socialist Prius driver who gets Starbucks every day and wears a Che Guevara t-shirt every morning before massacring 60 babies at their job at the abortion clinic. Whereas liberal news groups try to frame conservatives as racist, homophobic, AR-15 toting, Confederate flag waving, God-loving freedom machines. So what do we do with this information now? Do we all stop listening to the mainstream media and then they'll go away and we'll all sing Kumbaya? I think more realistically, we educate ourselves on negative media tactics, like some of the ones I've described here, to be able to combat and recognize when media outlets try to deceive you or create artificially important issues. We can also get our news from different places, like independent media outlets, to try and avoid that looming corporate influence. Overall, it's important that you don't believe everything you read. Finding credible information is hard, but it's worth it. Think for yourself and make judgments on your own.